All right, and we are back. So we are continuing our talk on future tech, kind of springboarding off of the Consumer Electronics Show of 2013, a couple of weeks ago. And where did we leave off, James?
Oh, we were talking about gaming systems, and I thought we could turn that into tablets and laptops, computers. I mean, it's all kind of blurring together now. Um, I have my laptop, my little basic model laptop. It's getting kind of old. Then I have a Kindle Fire, which is, pretty basic tablet overall.
Not
Love
angry
them
about the
both,
situation.
use them both. What for you, what do you use now? I mean, in a general sense, and what would you like to be able to purchase in, say, 2 years? What would you like to see on the shelves that you could take home and be able to utilize?
Well, right now I have my trusty laptop, the one that I use for pretty much everything. Um, for when I purchased it, it was by no means top of the line powerhouse kind of laptop. I'd love to be able to purchase one of those, but really my budget most of the time for a laptop is somewhere around $500 to $600 at the high end. Like if I really save for it. It did have some things that I needed. Dedicated video card and things like that, so that I could use for editing and things like that. But it works pretty well for me now. I use it only more for editing for our podcast, for my banking and things like that. Um, what I enjoy using most of the time for browsing the internet, watching Netflix, watching Hulu, I actually use my phone. And so I would love to have a tablet, a nice big one, 10.1 inch, or bigger even, um, that really does that I can do all my browsing from, that I can really use for my everyday kind of day to day sort of things. Um, when I was looking for a new phone, I was kind of half-heartedly, jokingly looking for a tablet, like a 7-inch tablet, kind of like a Kindle or I think they're called the Nook HDs, which are the Nook's equivalent to the Kindle. Basically, like a relatively full-featured tablet that also could make and receive cell phone calls. Um, Probably in the next 2 years, I'll be at the point where I'll be buying another phone, and that's still what I'm kind of looking for. I'd like a 7 to 10 inch tablet that basically does everything that my phone does. So like a phone, but a tablet. And then I'll just, I can use a Bluetooth or a headset for my phone calls. I mean, I really don't use my phone for actual calls that much. I use it more for browsing and Hulu and Netflix and everything like that. So that's
Right.
really what I would be looking for probably in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, the laptop, the fact that it has a keyboard, the mouse, just the comfort of that, familiar way of interacting with the internet and the programs that I use. I really like that. I know there are some of the tablets that have, the click on keyboard, and I'm sure you can get, Bluetooth um, mice for them as well. Um, but my tablet basically, I mean, I'm unfortunately a cigarette smoker still. We smoke in the garage, and that's when I find that I use it the most. Either when I'm going out there and I'm going to be spend a few minutes out there, um, and playing games or jumping on Facebook or just thoughts in my head, looking stuff up on the internet, or if I go out to eat by myself, like if I'm on my way to work, oh, I'm going to stop and get some breakfast on my way. I'll bring my Kindle and I don't have 4G on it. I just have the normal Wi-Fi. So at that point, I'm limited to games and books, which, I mean, honestly, there's still a million things to do on that thing, even without having the internet. Um, and I definitely like them both, but I do feel like there is going to come a point where there is, they're getting closer and closer to being the same kind of thing. where it's really, do you have this or do you have that? It doesn't matter because they're gonna, the tablets are getting bigger and more powerful, um, and the laptops are getting, not necessarily smaller, but with like Windows 8 as one example, the operating systems for both are the same. Any tablet, if you can hook up a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse to it and have a stand for it, is basically a laptop for you. Um, and for me, that's where I really kind of want to see it go. I want it to be where I don't really need both things, but they work. Like right now, I can't use. I mean, the Kindle Fire is a small tablet, so it's not the best of examples. But if I had a 10.1, it's not easy for me to just print something from that. So I use, if I'm going to use Excel or I'm going to use Word to print up documents, I'm definitely using my laptop, where I can't really do that with my Kindle Fire. But I would really like to see where I only really need the one, between that and a smartphone, obviously, because I mean, I have the Motorola Razr. It's a bigger smartphone. So that and a decent sized tablet where I could have that, the proper Bluetooth accessories to make it very laptop-ish. Um, it'd be really nice to not, be continually repurchasing over the years two different lines of equipment and two different lines of technology, when I can merge them into one, and then I also have, the option of spending a little more on it as opposed to, I mean, my laptop, you were saying $500. I got my laptop for like 350, and it was just a lucky moment for me. It was like the last one they had, and they had moved on to the next generation. I've had it for like 3, 4 years now, and it's still a reasonably good laptop. Every now and again, I get an Alienware and I want to buy another one, but by the time I get to the cart, I'm like, wow, who would pay that much for a laptop?
Did you see at the CES there was the Razer Edge?
Um, I did not. I got to read a couple articles. Normally, I rely on G4 TV for my CES coverage,
Okay.
and either I missed it or they didn't do it.
Okay. Well, it's a laptop tablet hybrid, and it's billed as a gaming laptop tablet. It runs Windows 8. It's has 3.0 USBs on it. There's going to be control, so you can hook up your controllers to it. In addition to that, it won't it doesn't they don't have it yet, but it's supposed to release later this year. The station for it, so you can hook it up to the station that would have your keyboard and a mouse and everything, that you would have for it. But it's supposed to. The idea is that it's a tablet, when you want it to be a tablet. It's a gaming uh, laptop when you want to play games like World of Warcraft or anything like that, or even tablet games. But that's the idea. Like that, when I saw it, I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. That's if it makes phone calls, then cool. But if it's a Windows 8 laptop, then you could hook Skype up on it and make phone calls with that.
It's true. It's true. What was the price point? Do you remember?
I don't, and I didn't write it down, but there wasn't anything that, like, any of the prices of any of the stuff that I was like, wow, that is incredibly unreasonable. I mean, even the TV that we were joking about, the 25,000 for a TV that does everything that TV did. That was pretty reasonable. I mean, it's not something I would ever be able to buy because I'd rather own a car,
Right.
but than a
But
amazing TV.
I mean, and something like that TV the cutting edge of technology is always expensive.
Yes, yes.
And that's just the way it goes.
And I see. I had heard it on, like, I was listening to a YouTube video about it when I was driving around somewhere. I can't remember, but I remember it being like a price that I felt comfortable. Like if I had the money for it, I would buy it. So it had to have been in the $500, $600, $700 range. But I don't know. I'm sure I could take the next couple of minutes and Google it, but I'm not in the. I don't really want to, so someone else can.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not really important. I mean, because a lot of what we're talking about is more about what we'd like to see out of technology. And you keep mentioning a tablet as a phone, and that just seems crazy to me because I keep my phone in my pocket, and I don't know what kind of baggy pants you wear, but like a 10.1-inch screen tablet is not fitting in any of my pockets.
Well, no, it wouldn't. And if that was the case, I wouldn't. I wouldn't carry. I would carry it in one of the little tablet um, foldable things that you can fold shut, and that's how I would carry it around. If I wore um, a suit jacket or something, I would probably have a large pocket sewn on the inside to put it in. But I don't, so I would be okay with carrying it around. I mean, obviously I couldn't carry it around at work like I do with my phone. Um,
Right.
but hey, maybe an idea is a tablet that has a small section that slides out of it. That's the phone. That basically is like a smartphone. Um, but it's another. It would be a small corner or something of the tablet that when it's slid in there, that part of the screen is part of the whole tablet. But you could slide out the phone and it would still work.
Well, for me, I mean, a lot of what we've been talking about, I mean, leads me up to what I would like to, or maybe believe. I'm not sure if I really believe, but I hope, I guess is probably a better word for it, that technology will get to. Now, I think anyone who has played with a smartphone that is, we'll say 30 or over, realize that this thing is far beyond being a phone anymore. For people that are like high school age, this probably seems relatively normal to them. Because even when they were like when they first remember, there were already cell phones around. So this is just it's kind of normal. But the amount of work you'd have to do um, when I was in high school to achieve what I can do sitting here on my couch with my smartphone, is unbelievable. Figure out the weather, go get a paper, or wait for the news. Figure out what time movies are playing, go get a paper, or go to the theater. There wasn't even movie phone back in the day. But you could call the theater and actually like talk to a human and find out when Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was playing.
Oh, see, I
Um,
remember calling the theater and listening to their 15-minute automated thing listing all of the movies and all of the times.
yeah, yep,
Okay, yeah. So I was just thinking back to when I was in junior high and my friends were like, dude, it's Friday night. Let's go see a movie. Well, let's see what's on. We'd get out either a newspaper or we'd look up the phone number for the theater and call it. And somebody would sit there listening and jotting down the numbers really quick, for
right.
whatever movies, for the times that they would be coming out.
Well, I mean, for me, all the things that a smartphone can do now, I feel like that is only going to increase um, to the point where the smartphone and the terminology at some point in time will change because, really of the things it does, it's kind of one of the least complicated things it does. And maybe some person who knows more in depth about technology would argue the point that maybe it's not, maybe still making phone calls is very complicated. But the simplicity of that, the use of making it really pretty simple, um, is I would like to. I mean, I feel like eventually it will get to the point where the smartphone is like that's kind of your personal piece of technology. So I could say there was a pay-per-view concert or a UFC fight or whatever it is, and I pay for it, and then I come over to your house. Well, I paid for it, and well, I have my phone, which is my identifier. It's my connection to that, so we could just watch it on your TV because
Right.
I'm there with my phone. Maybe my cable in its entirety is based off my phone's location. So I get HBO. We decide we want to watch Game of Thrones at your house. You don't actually have HBO, but it doesn't matter because I'm there with my phone, so we can watch it. So the TV, I could link up to any TV, and this is far off in the future as far as technologies interacting. Although I think all of the different pieces of technology to make something like this happen exist. It's just the combination and it being standardized enough for this to really work. But me being there with my phone in the presence, Blu-ray connection or whatever connection it would use, we could watch Game of Thrones because I am paying for the rights to watch HBO wherever I may be. Um, or having kind of drone computer stations because the processing power on a smartphone is I couldn't tell you exactly how long, but say 5 years ago, what smartphones can do now is what basic computers were doing 5 years ago. Maybe it's closer to 10. It's hard to say.
Well, I mean, like I will say specifically, I've looked it up for my smartphone. It's got a 1.2 gig dual core processor in it with 1 gig of RAM. I mean, my first computer I would have cried. I mean, it would have been thousands and thousands of dollars to have a computer that could do that when I first got my first computer, which had like 366 megahertz,
Yeah.
you know? Um,
Oh yeah.
and that was a single core. I mean, this is a dual core, 1.2 gig with 1 gig of RAM. Um, my laptop from 6 or 7 years ago didn't wasn't even that. It wasn't a dual core. It barely had 1 gig worth of processing power and only had 512 meg.
Right. And I mean the way it's progressing, it's not truly exponential because there's got to be some top end, but it feels sometimes when you look back over, 5, 10 years that it just feels exponential. The amount as RAM increases and the processing power and the storage ability, like how much they can fit in such a small space. Um, but your ability to just have your smartphone and have like a drone station at your house that's basically just like a screen and a keyboard and a mouse and you just put your phone next to it and it connects and you have the full basically a full laptop
Hmm.
right there.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That would kind of taking my I'd rather have a tablet that can make phone calls. It would be interesting to so you just walk in your house, you take your cell phone and you set it on this little box or something in your kitchen and it connects to your entire house and your Wi-Fi and then you pick up your in-home tablet that you carry it around and basically it's your phone. It accesses your phone and does everything from your phone and you can make phone calls and everything through the phone that's sitting in a box in your kitchen.
Right. I mean, I think that all the technology basically exists. There's got to be gaps in there somewhere, but the majority of it I believe already exists from I keep up on Gizmodo and I like to read on new technologies and things like that. The biggest problem that I see is the uh, standardizing something like that, because one company's not going to take all the risk of if we build this, they will buy it and they will buy all of our products. So it's
Right.
more of the slow change in culture and the way people utilize their electronics to force the companies to standardize to the point where you could actually do this.
Well,
Um,
it's kind of like Bluetooth.
right.
Bluetooth didn't didn't exist 10 years ago. I mean,
It
not
did.
real.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't as prevalent is what I mean. It
I
was
remember like 12, 13 years ago, my cousin telling me that Bluetooth was the future.
yeah, yeah. And I remember like these home audio systems where the speakers were connected to the home thing through Bluetooth, and that was it was like no wires to hook up, and it's a good connectivity, um and it was weird, it was like this, but that and now you have it in cars. It's becoming standard in most normal average car. It's not luxury cars, but normal average car. Every cell phone has, every smartphone has Bluetooth.
Oh yeah.
It's almost like, yeah, good luck trying to find one that doesn't.
Right, right. I mean, it's you almost. I don't know if you could. I mean, it would be. I would think it'd be really hard to have a cell phone you were trying to push to the public and then not have Bluetooth.
So, do you think that actually having a physical phone, you would still want that, or what do you think about like the having all that same kind of technology, but in like a wearable format? Like there's the Google glasses, but I'm thinking crazy sci-fi. Let's say they're contacts that you wear, and so your entire phone, instead of being in the palm of your hand, it's a digital interaction that takes place. Imagine the way you see the world, but you'd have a heads up display on these contacts for everything, and then you could
Right,
access it with your eyes, and you could actually reach out with your hands, and there would be some kind of a pendant that you would wear or something that would track your hand motions and connect to the computer that you have, and you could access holographic images on the contacts by touching them in space.
right. Well, I mean, that is a significant jump from where we are in technology today. And if that was just to come out tomorrow, I would definitely be hesitant. Not to say that I wouldn't be interested in that technology because I really do like technology. Um, but that's weird. That's a big jump from where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
it would be completely different. It's definitely something way out.
oh yeah. But, I like the idea in a way. Um, but there's always that, I don't know, that the contacts is feels like, it's two steps away from being a chip in my head, and I don't know. And again, I think that's because the steps in technology between, you don't see those. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you go 20 years ago, which was 1992, as scary as that is, if we go to 1992 and say almost every person is going to walk around with a phone that's got a GPS tracking device in it, and you just say that, people are going to be like, I'm not going to carry that around.
Yeah.
I'm not going to carry around the thing that's got the GPS tracking device. But we all do. We all do. And actually, my the Motorola Razor, you can't take the battery out.
No, that's the same way mine is. When I first got it, that was one of my first thoughts is you can't even take the battery out. I'm like, well, how do I reset the phone if it locks up? Like that's always been the phone locks up. I take the battery out.
And I mean, how do you turn it off when you want the government not to be able to track you? You can't. But yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, getting back to what I was saying, like I see it being to the point where the smartphone could turn into kind of the hub of what you have, where you can, pay for things with it, your cable's connected to it, your internet, all of those things. It's kind of an all-in-one. Our society isn't really set up for what I'm suggesting or wanting. But again, it's not one step away. That is a lot of steps to get to that point. It's just what I would like to see. And I think in some ways it will continue to go in that direction where more and more stuff is based around that one piece of pocket-sized, technology that we carry around. Call it a smartphone because that's what we call it now. But I mean, we all know, people go on Facebook with it. I check IMDb. I go on Pulse for my news feeds. I'm getting text, which is technically, I mean, we consider it a phone-based thing, but it's really a different kind of activity than phone calls. Um, I use it to find the weather, do random searches on Google. I don't really play games on mine as much anymore since I got the Kindle Fire, but Lord knows I've played many games on my cell phones over the years, and just a lot of other stuff that I can do. I have an app on there for alcoholic drinks, recipes, because sometimes when I'm working at my restaurant, someone will ask for a drink and we just don't know. So I'll go in there and I'll find the recipe for some drink that we, probably have never made before and may never make again because it's just some weird drink somebody wants. And, I probably have dozens of other apps that I use way less frequently. I have like an app that I recently got to track all the movies that I own, all the DVDs and Blu-rays that I own, and it's on my phone and on my laptop. Um, and I mean, so many different things you can do with it, and it feels like it's just the tip of the iceberg of what it could be. But eventually, that like piece of pocket-sized technology that we carry around with us, I think is going to be more and more of a hub for our personal connection to technology, whether that's internet or TV and all the other many, many, many things that it could be.
I would agree. We are running out of time.
Uh-oh.
Yes, yes, we're coming down to the wire here.
Well, I know you mentioned one thing from CES, and I feel like you've looked into it a little more recently than I have. Was there anything else that really jumped out at you from
Yes, I have
CES
an
this year?
entire list. It's almost like you
Oh,
read my mind.
whoa.
Yes, I have a list of things that I thought were really pretty cool about CES. So I'm just going to shoot down this list before we run out of all of our time.
Okay,
Uh,
I plan on interrupting you at some point.
that's fine.
This one, not one of them.
That's fine. All right, so there is the NVIDIA Shield, which is a portable gaming powerhouse. It's a little gaming system that NVIDIA came out with. It is not the Razer Edge that I talked about. It is something a little different. Anything that has to do with gaming, I'm excited about. The only thing I was kind of a little worried about is I think that NVIDIA was the same company that in the early aughts, the early zeros of 21st century, they came out with an old gaming cell phone, like it was supposed to be, and it I remember them selling it at GameStop, and it never really caught on, and nobody was really that interested, but that was the thing. Sony's got the Xperia Z, which is a powerhouse kind of cell phone. The one it kind of had its normal sort of cell phone things, and it looked pretty cool, and I thought it was cool because I used to own an Xperia. But the one thing that I thought was kind of funny is Sony claims that you can make up to a 30-minute phone call on this phone while it's submerged. It's a waterproof smartphone, which a waterproof smartphone in and of itself is awesome because I've never
Yeah.
done this, but I've heard many a story of people having dropped their phone in the toilet or in the dishes, the dishwater or something because, we have to have it with us all the time, even while we're standing over or sitting over a toilet. But so that the fact that it's waterproof is awesome. I don't know why anybody would need to make a 30-minute phone call while the phone is submerged or what that call would really entail because it would just pretty much be like bloop, 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 bloop.
That's true.
But I saw some pictures and they had like the phone running and they had it submerged in a cup of water, and there was stuff going on the phone, and I thought that was pretty cool. The Razer Edge we already talked about. That's the gaming laptop hybrid that runs Windows 8. That looked pretty cool. I'll probably never buy it just because it's hard to drum up money for something like that. But it looked
Right.
cool. The Steam box. Steam, if for those who don't know, I talked a little bit about this early in the previous part. Steam is a company that is online. They have all kinds of games, classic games, new games. You buy them, you purchase them, you download them to your computer. But it looks like Steam wants to get into the video gaming market for like your home televisions, and like you were talking about a kind of computer that hooks up to your TV and everything like that. The Steam box eventually is supposed to do like that. And what I thought was cool is it's another competitor for the video game market. Right now we really just have Xbox 360 and PS4. I'm sorry, PS3. Whereas in the next generation it'll be the 720 and the PS4. the Steam box hopefully will have a little bit, will help to kind of add more competition. More competition you have, the better for us as consumers. It's better for us. It always more competition between the conglomerates. Um, there is the Wii out there, but it really doesn't. I mean, it's built for a certain niche of people. Anyway, the Steam box that's coming out. I don't know when it's coming out. They've just been talking about it. The 3D Systems Cube X. It's a 3D printer for your home, so you can make all homemade plastic crap that your kids want or that you want. But this is what I thought was amazing. It's only $2,500.
That, I mean, yeah, that's not cheap, but for a 3D printer, that's reasonable. I mean, that's shockingly reasonable, actually.
Would never be able, I don't think I would come up with $2,500, but that's really reasonable to think about. You know, 10 years ago, the only ways you could do this were, specialized machines in warehouses would do it. And for those who don't know what 3D printing is, basically it builds up something, one layer at a time. But that it's so cool because you could scan anything, and then you could just print it at home on your little 3D printer, which is really cool and really reminds me of like replicators from Star Trek. I also remember a TED episode. TED is like the ideas worth sharing. They have all kinds of technology and things. Not all the time technology, but the one I'm remembering, where they were basically building a 3D printer like this, but for organs, where it could build organs on a like just a kind of generic sort of protein framework. And so you would take a sample of the person's DNA and then build the organ that you needed for them using stem cells on this general protein framework. So I mean, I'm like, that's cool. Then you don't have to wait for somebody to die for you to get a new heart. It's just like, okay, your heart doesn't work. We're going to go ahead and take your DNA, build you a new, grow you a new heart, build you a new heart, and then it's your heart. It's made out of your DNA, so there's no rejection problems. And we'll just put in a new one. You're good. You'll be home next week.
Right, right. I mean, the future applications of 3D printing, or the ability to do that. And yeah, I mean, when you talk about organs or stuff that is not just that flat material, the future looks like replicators, you know what I mean? Or as simple as I need, oh, my Blu-ray case cracked. Let me build a new one,
Right.
you know?
Exactly. Or even if you had to, buy something from an online store and download it to your printer, you could do that. I mean, there wouldn't be any running out to find what you need or waiting 3 weeks to get some specialized part from some small little company. It's like, hey, you got a 3D printer, you can just print it at home.
Right.
Um, the Oculus Rift VR headset, virtual reality headset. This is kind of a newer design on the old virtual reality kind of concept. A headset that you wear, like for the old virtual reality. But the cooler things about it is the screens obviously are much better quality, and they have the two separate screens, so you see everything in 3D, one screen for each eye, and so everything looks 3D. Um, one thing they brought up, and I thought it made me just giddy, is the idea of playing a game like Skyrim or Oblivion with 3D virtual reality glasses.
Oh man.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Just the immersion of like that big expansive world or a Red Dead Redemption,
Yeah,
that would be very exciting.
be amazing. And here was the coolest thing about it that they talked about. To get the developers kit for the Oculus Rift VR headset, like so you get the headset and a developer's kit so you can start making games. Not something I could do because I'm an idiot when it comes to that. But it was only like $300. I mean, it was really reasonable to get stuff and just start making content for these glasses.
Well, I mean, a lot of that makes sense though, because you you want people to be making that stuff. So you want that part of it to be a reachable goal for people, you know?
Right?
Like for companies to want to, oh, this is cheap. Let's work on this. This is a technology we find exciting. And that's something, oh God, yeah. Full virtual reality, getting back to holodecks and stuff like that would be fantastic. I mean, even at that video game, um, level of that we're looking at with like a Skyrim level of graphics or Red Dead Redemption in like a 3D immersed world where you turn your head and it really like, you see behind you,
Hmm.
it'd be amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So the last couple of things that I thought were cool were just I thought they were really cool. Um, there was the Kingston 1 terabyte flash drive.
Nice.
The last thing was the Toby Rex. It's the world's first gaze interaction computer, a computer that you interact with entirely by looking at what you want. So
Really?
now the company, I guess, they actually pioneer eye tracking technology and things like that. So this isn't. It's not they're breaking the mold here. This is kind of what their little world is all about. But a computer that's specifically for that. That's imagine how much kind of technology they had to develop for somebody like Stephen Hawking so that we never lost him as a mind. Um, and now that this is the kind of technology that is going to be relatively inexpensive for the average consumer. And so for the
Right.
people out there who they don't have an outlet, a way to communicate with the world, here is this great uh, um, computer where they can. So that's it. Those are the big ones. I hate everybody talked about the vibrating fork slash spoon,
Yeah.
and I thought that was just silly. I,
Well, it's America and we're the most overweight country. So a vibrating fork telling you to stop eating is probably like a public service in some ways. But yeah, the list that you had um, was much more intriguing for me as a tech geek as far as the things that are out there. But yeah, that's the one that showed up on like the normal news radio was the vibrating fork. Of all of those things, all of those amazing technologies, that's the one that, gets the, 20 seconds of airtime. I think we're going over time though. I think we have
I
exceeded our allotted time. Oh,
Please fine us. Please don't send nasty emails.
well,
Well, you can send nasty emails if you want.
yeah, any feedback is welcome, positive or negative. If you love it, let us know. If you don't love it, let us know why. Um, but hopefully one more piece of technology that would be awesome is a time machine, and then you can get the extra 10 minutes or 15 minutes that we went over here back. But thanks for listening, everybody, again. This is just our little vision into what we would like to see in the future and a little touch on the Consumer Electronics Show. But thanks as always for joining us. If you want to, please place comments below this video or send us emails at our Yahoo address.
Yeah.
Either
Uh,
or, thanks for taking the time. Justin, anything else to add?
it's not a Yahoo, but that's all right. It's Hotmail or
Hotmail,
it's Gmail. We're doing some great.
Gmail. Oh,
Nope,
man.
one of
Okay,
us.
our email address, whatever that may or may not be, go back to the beginning of part 1 of episode 7 here, and we will list off our email address. It's also below the video there, guys. Thanks again for listening. Have a good week, and we will see you next week.